Welcome to Truth Be Told. I'm Max. I'm here with Dwight, and we're just so excited to have you here with us along for the journey. And today we're talking about faith. What is faith?
It's a great question, Max. And what is faith, and where does that begin, and what does that look like, right? And what is faith? How does that change us? Mm-hmm. And does faith change us as we're on this journey with Jesus, as we follow Him, as we grow and we grow in faith? What does that look like, or what will that look like, or could that look like to us? And as you think about faith, who in the Scripture stands out to you that you go, oh yeah, they had faith? And
one of the strongest ones is the woman that touches Jesus' garment. Because she didn't know him. She couldn't get to him. There's a lot of restrictions for her to get there. But she's like, if I could only touch, I would be healed. And she was.
Where did that faith come from? Again, let's start with that. That God's the one that gives us faith. The faith to believe, the faith to trust in that. And let's talk about that story a little bit. And, when you say that, the woman that touched, she said, if I could only reach in. And if you watch Chosen on that, that's a powerful story, the way that they introduce that. But let's step back a little bit. Let's just step back into the whole story that's going on there. And so Jesus has basically landed in this community. He's just come in by boat, and he's there. And so Jairus, who's one of the rulers, the leaders in the synagogue, his daughter's 12 years old, and she's dying. Mm-hmm. It's interesting as you read through that she's dying. One of the words is used there, she's gasping for breath. And so Jairus, and I don't know how he knew Jesus, but he's got faith too. Mm-hmm. But he's holding back. Mm-hmm. He's a ruler in the synagogue. He doesn't want to stand out to the other religious leaders. He doesn't want to really say, I believe in this Jesus. I've got faith, until he meets a crisis, right? And have you ever thought about how much the crisis in our lives, that they bring us to a place where we go, I need Jesus, I need God, I need something here. Yep. And so Jairus, his daughter is dying, and so he runs off and he goes to find Jesus. He finds Jesus and he says, my daughter's dying. And when he says that, he said, will you come to my house? And so he's got faith. Mm-hmm. He knows that Jesus is capable of healing his daughter. Yeah. And he knows that Jesus is able to heal his daughter, whether he does or not. But he said, will you come to my house? My daughter's dying. And so they start this journey. And this is it was just such a beautiful story. So he starts on this journey with Jesus. And as they're going along to the house, and I can imagine if that was me and my 12-year-old daughter, I'd be going, yeah, we got it made now. Jesus is coming to my house. Everything is
going to be okay.
Everything's going to be. I can stop. I can breathe. I can breathe. And so they're going down and through this community on the way, and I don't know how wide the streets are. I don't know how many people are there. But all of a sudden, Jesus says, who touched me? And the disciples are debating that, who touched you? How would you know?
It's a big crowd, busy people bumping into you.
Yeah. And so, Peter is saying, how would you know? And I got to remember now, this is an interruption. Mm-hmm. 100%. And that part of going back this journey, Jesus is heading, we're saying, if we're Jairus there, we're saying, we'll get to point B. Point B is where my daughter is. We get to where my daughter is, you'll heal her, everything will be all right. And so Jesus stops there, and he waits, and he says, no, I perceive that virtue or healing power's gone out of me. And so he waits. And so this lady that has had this issue of blood for 12 years. Mm-hmm. For 12 years, she's been unclean. For 12 years, she hasn't, had a relationship with her husband. For 12 years, she hasn't been able to go to the synagogue. For 12 years, she hasn't been able to go to the temple and worship because she's unclean. Mm-hmm. And so she's there, and you go, but she's healed. Mm-hmm. why in the world does Jesus stop now? She had faith enough to believe that if I could just touch the hem of his garment. She had faith enough to get in the middle of the crowd. She had faith enough to reach down. She had faith enough to be healed.
Yeah.
But Jesus stops right then. Why? What can you possibly think about why?
She's got a story to tell. Or there's a story behind her faith.
Yeah, so you think about it. He's going to where there's... Jairus is worried about his 12-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
This lady, in these 12 years, she could have no child. Same 12 years.
Yeah.
You know, Jairus has known all of the joy of holding a child and loving a child and all of that, and she's felt all of this barrenness and hurt and pain. And so imagine now, or think about this for a moment, that Jesus stops because she needs emotional healing. She's been unclean, and everybody knows she hasn't been to the synagogue, and she hasn't been to the temple, and they know all of this. And to them, not only is she feeling unclean, but to them she's unclean. And she's got this incredible, and it's often like us in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we have faith enough. What is faith? We have faith enough to believe that God can heal her this, but going deeper in, will this affect my whole life? Will this affect me emotionally? Will this help me? Will this affect me spiritually? What is that relationship with God? And so Jesus stops in the midst of this, and if I were Jairus, I'd be pulling on the hem of Jesus' garment right about then. I'm going, come on. We need to get going.
My daughter's dying.
My daughter's dying. And so, but Jesus waits. But not only does she need to know that she's healed, not only does she need to know, because this is, a smaller community or even in a city, everybody knows. And everybody else needs to know that she's healed.
Yeah.
Now she can go to the temple. Now that she can do all of these things, but she's clean. And so that story that you're talking about, this is her story. And everybody knows now that she's clean, that Jesus healed her and she's clean. She had faith. She was willing to trust, and she was willing to step outside of her comfort zone. Right? So that's part of that faith. I don't know that that's initially faith.
Yeah.
What would you think about that? What?
I think that's desperation at that point.
Okay.
But I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think when we get desperate for things in our lives, we look, where are we looking? And I think she was looking to Jesus.
Yeah.
She saw that he could and was like, if I could only.
Yeah, she probably heard what Jesus had done for others too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. There's real life experience and things. And I know several people that have their lives changed by Jesus. And he's changed my life. And so it's the same thing. Yeah,
I'm sure that, in that culture, and everything traveled by story, right? And in that story, she heard of blind men that got their sight back, that those that had leprosy were healed. And I'm sure that she heard all of these stories, and she thought, if Jesus could do that for me, or for them, he could do that for me. And that fact of just going by faith and saying, okay, I'm going to go if I could do this.
Yeah, I think I'm a fan of the book of James, as you well know. But there's one area in there where he talks about faith without works is dead. Yeah. Now, works could be doing something. So, but then it goes on to say, so faith without works is dead, but I'll show you my faith by my works. So it's like, she didn't say, I've got faith, I'm going to go do this. It's like, how did she show her faith? She simply acted. Yeah. She acted upon what she knew he could do, but she didn't have a real result for herself yet at that point.
Yeah, faith.
And then Jesus tells her, I've never seen faith like this. Or I can't remember this specific, but...
Yeah. So he heals her. Actually, it's a lady that's a Gentile, and Jesus talks about her faith, right? Okay. Yep. And that trusting in God, that place where we say, I'm going to trust, and then, as you said, that action, I want to go back to that story for just a minute, and because Jairus is standing there, he's got all of these interruptions. You know, it's kind of, we've had this interruption, and so Jesus heals her, and then they're getting ready, and someone comes running, and says, "Yeah, don't bother the master anymore. Your daughter's dead."
Yeah, it's all over.
It's all over, and you know, that's the worst of it, and yet Jesus, you know, he tells him, "Let's go." And there's faith, knowing his daughter's already dead. And he's willing to take and go with Jesus. And Jesus raises her from the dead. And, you know, that whole thing. And you think about these stories of faith that as they begin to share those, this woman is going to share this story. Others that saw it are going to share this story of faith that, you know, but simple faith. You know, I don't think that they woke up that morning and thought, you know, I have this great faith. And but that trusting, and then after you trust, moving forward in that trust. And you know, Jairus, he's got this crisis that's going on. It's in his own home, and so he's going, Jesus, I'm going to trust you here. And when he gets there, but you know, he's heard the stories of Jesus healing, and it's his daughter, and so there's that moving forward in it, and
action,
right?
Yeah, very powerful. There's something we can apply to our own life is just take that, and we're not going to ever just have that big feeling like you said, because I've never woken up with that. But when we move in a direction and just follow him, and that's a perfect example of, I think, the beginning of what her journey of following him looked like.
Yeah, and I think that every step, once we make, you know, that first step, which God initiates, right? He gives us that faith to believe. And then as we move forward in that, it's step by step in this faith, and that faith grows. You believe in who God is, you believe in what he can do, and you move forward in that.
And just walk with him.
Well, thanks for joining us on this journey today, and we'll see you in the next episode. God bless.